The odds of the Niners getting a franchise quarterback in this draft. This is my favorite topic. We've been talking about it on the phone. Vish, break it down for us, and I'll get into it too.
Yeah, so if anybody, has observed me over the past few months, I've had the honor of doing this show with Grant. It's that I'm a little bit superstitious, and I have kind of a sadistic logic way of looking at things at times. And right now, the numbers game. So the Niners trying to project if the Niners quarterback would be successful is actually so weird. Like, let's forget who the quarterback is, because at the end of the day, none of us actually know or have a clue which one of these guys are going to be successful. So let's just say in a vacuum, it's one of Lance, Wilson, Fields, or Jones, all four who have a path to be very successful in the NFL, right? We can agree on that. Okay. So let's say it's that scenario. Here's where I stand, okay? Just by the numbers. So first of all, in an ideal world, you would think that the Niners quarterback is going to be successful because no quarterback has ever been drafted to a top 3 play caller, 2 young and ascending very good receivers, a top 2 or 3 tight end in the NFL, a pretty good offensive line or an okay one with a Hall of Fame offensive tackle. You add the fact that you have a Hall of Fame center and you're going to have a run game, right? This is quarterback heaven, right? Where I stand with the problem is that if you look at there's five quarterbacks in this draft, right? The likeliest scenario is that there's 2 successful quarterbacks from this draft, 1 middling one, and 2 busts. It's likely that there's 1 successful one, 4 busts. It's likely that there's 3 successful ones, 2 busts, but all 5 are not going to be successful. And the likeliest
I broke it down in an article a couple of days ago where the last 20 years, you can only really point to 17 quarterbacks taken in round 1 who definitely lived up to expectations. And the 17 out of 59, that's like 28%. 29.
And there's 2 scenarios. Let's look at the 2 that come to me off the top of my head. 83 is way too young for me, or way too old for me. But if you're talking in terms of, even 99, the year I was born is young. But if you're talking about 5 quarterbacks going in the first round, let's look at 18 and 99. 18, I think Allen and Lamar are big hits. Baker is solid, but not a huge hit, not a bust. And then right now, the way it looks is Rosen's a massive bust. Jury's still out on Darnold, but there's not looking good. Say anything, right? You can't say it's looking good for him. And then you go to 99. McNabb was a hit. I would say Culpepper was pretty much a hit, but then Couch, McNown, and Akili Smith were massive busts. So for that reason, that's where I look at it. And the thing about this draft that makes it harder is I think we all have kind of reached a consensus where we think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be good, right? And so if Trevor Lawrence is good, I think the best case scenario, just the superstitious part in me and just the fan part in me is kind of hoping that Trevor Lawrence is like this, not a massive failure. I don't wish failure on him, but I just wish that he's not like what everybody expects him to be. So now you have 2 possible quarterbacks that can be good, and the Niners quarterback's in the best possible scenario. So he's going to be good, and I'm thinking of it like that. But the likely scenario is that I think we all agree Trevor Lawrence is good, which basically leaves 1 more quarterback from this draft that's going to be really successful.
No, right? The way I look at it is, look, 17 quarterbacks in 20 years. That's telling me that most likely it's just Trevor Lawrence. Most likely. But there are examples of there being 2 franchise quarterbacks coming from a draft. Recently. But I think it's more likely that there's 0. And the fact that we see 1 makes me question whether there's 2. Because I'm sure, how many years in the last 20 years have there been 2? Maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5.
I would say the last 3-4 years right now, we've almost always gotten 2 that we feel great about right away. We felt great, like Deshaun Patrick Mahomes in 17. In 18, you got Allen and Lamar. In 19, you have Kyler and nobody else, but that was also everybody agreed a worst quarterback draft. And in 20, you have Burrow and Herbert, who we feel.
Well, you did have 3 guys going top 15 in 2019.
Right.
You had 3 guys going top 6 in 2020.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think that's the part of it that I hate talking about it, because you're talking about the career of people that are my age and stuff.
True.
But the likelihood is that, and I think that's where people don't see, because everybody has a guy, right? Everybody has Lance, everybody has Wilson, everybody has Fields, but the likelihood is that 2 of these guys aren't going to be successful. Now, circumstance is going to be part of it, but at the end of the day, that excuse isn't really given. So
Right.
for that reason, I am a little nervous about this entire pick and all of that as a fan, not as an analyst, but as a fan, just because you look at that precedence and you look at the fact that Lawrence is very likely to be successful. It's tough to just look at this situation and be like, even though this quarterback's coming to the best possible situation, and just be excited and be like, yes, we're going to get a quarterback and it's all going to be good and Gucci.
Yeah. So like look at 2003, number 1 pick, Carson Palmer.
But then Leftwich was a bust.
Leftwich 7. Bowler was 19 and Rex Grossman was 22. All these teams needed quarterbacks. This happens a lot where, I mean, a lot of people like Byron Leftwich. A lot of people loved Kyle Bowler. That dude had a cannon. And then there's years like 2004 where
you went Eli Rivers, Ben.
And they all hit.
2005, Rodgers and Smith. Like Rodgers was technically, Smith was technically, I guess, a hit at the end of the day. Not exactly what the Niners were looking for, and they ruined Smith too. And then,
also 1 pick after Rodgers, Jason Campbell, not exactly.
Oh right, I forgot about Jason Campbell.
And look at 2006, you got Vince Young,
Jay Cutler, Matt Leinart. 2007 was Jamarcus Russell,
and Quinn.
Yeah, 2008 is Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco. 2009 is Matthew Stafford,
Sanchez, Freeman.
Yes. 2010 is Sam Bradford, Jimmy Clausen,
Tim Tebow,
and Colt McCoy. I think those were the 4 talked about. 11 is Cam, who was a hit, and then you go Locker, Gabbert, Ponder. I mean, I still don't know how Ponder was drafted in the top 15. God only knows, but he was drafted in the top 15. And then 12 was Tannehill, Luck. Griffin.
And then after 12, it gets bad. It's like 13, EJ Manuel.
13 was just a bad quarterback draft. Like I remember EJ Manuel, nobody said he should go in the first round, excuse me. And 14 was also considered to be a bad
Manziel and Bridgewater. Yes,
Teddy Two Gloves. And then 15 was Mariota Winston. 16 was Goff, Wentz, and
Paxton Lynch.
Paxton Lynch was also in the draft. And then 17 was
So guys, I know it's a very exciting time, but history tells us that the Niners have to be very, very careful.
You skipped 02, Joey Harrington and David Carr.
That's right.
01 was Mike Vick, Drew Brees.
I think there was also Patrick
2000 was Chad Pennington.
Oh, yeah. So, look, guys, what we're trying to say is there may not be a right answer here. We're arguing Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. We could look back in 5 years and be like, dang, we really overanalyzed that one. But it happens every year.
That's where I'll say, and I really want Justin Fields, but I'll say this as a fan's perspective to all the other Niners fans. Don't get too set in on a guy. Because at the end of the day, even if the guy you don't want who Kyle wants, just be happy whoever Kyle wants, because that guy's gonna have the best chance to succeed in terms of his environment, and because Kyle likes him. And that's the ultimate thing I would say. Don't be so set in on it. It has to be Fields. It has to be Lance. I'm going to be so upset if it's Jones, or I'm going to be so upset if it's Lance, or I'm going to be so upset if it's Fields. It's because at the end of the day, honestly, like, you just don't know. You just don't know.
And the Niners don't know, and the league doesn't know. It's a very inexact science.
And if the guy is good after 2 years and you think you have something, and then 4 years later he's not even on your team, like Carson Wentz, that's not good either. He's got to be your guy for the next 10 years.
Correct. Johns George says, in my opinion, 49ers are not in for Wilson. They didn't even call the Jets for the second pick, but Kyle and Lynch knew somehow that Falcons would pick their guy, Lance. What do you think?
I mean, the Falcons, they called the Falcons, though, but they also tried to get to the 6 and 5. They said they tried 6, they tried 5, they tried 4, and they landed at 3. So
it may not necessarily be that they went to a specific number, because the Falcons, good point. Green Glass Full says, anyone remember my classmate at Jesuit High School, Sacramento, Gio Carmazzi? Oh, dang. Drafted by the Niners. The next Montana Young football. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, the Brady 6, one of my favorite documentaries. Steve Mariucci talks about why they drafted Giovanni Carmazzi over Tom Brady.
Who wanted Giovanni Carmazzi? Was it Walsh or was it Mariucci?
I think it was Walsh.
Whew! Okay, Domain Threat says the offense Lance ran in college looks a lot like Kyle's. Just saying, could play a factor here.
No,
I actually think that's true. Yeah, I think
does.
That's a factor. Yep. Because I know Kyle and Mike like to see certain things on film. It doesn't necessarily – seeing a guy turn his back and be comfortable with play action doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a franchise quarterback, but it's something they feel is necessary. At the time, I thought Jason Campbell was the second coming of Jesus Christ, LOL. Yeah, well, you in Washington.
Funny thing is, he wasn't a bad quarterback.
Played at Auburn, right? Did he win a national championship?
He went to the playoffs with Washington with Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
He got the pulp beaten out of him by Aldon Smith on that infamous Monday night game of Colin Kaepernick's first career start.
Did.
He wasn't a bad player. He was tough. I think that I do think that like the league has made it easier for quarterbacks to be immediate successes and not be massive busts. Like Mitchell Trubisky is probably, other than Josh Rosen, the most associated as massive draft bust in the last 4 or 5 years. And Mitchell Trubisky still went to the playoffs with the team.
His winning record and like
good a Pro Bowl season. So exactly. For the most part, you're not going to have Tim Couches and Joey Harringtons and Akili Smiths, I think.
Although Josh Rosen and Dwayne Haskins just entered the chat.
True.
Hey, real quick before we go, because we're going up on an hour and a half, and I appreciate all the time you give me. As we leave, I'm just checking out. I love the Lance Zierlein scouting reports, and I love that he gives a player comp. Do you know the player comp he gives Mac Jones? Can you guess?
Matt Ryan.
Not quite.
Kirk Cousins.
Also named Jones. Starter in the league, Daniel Jones. Compares him to Daniel Jones. Is that fair in your opinion?
No, that's a terrible comp. That's a terrible comp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, just want to throw that out there.